Hello my friends and welcome to another video. Today we are doing an October in review video where I go over the past month and I share a little bit about what I did, what I made, anything that has been on my mind in the past month, and do a little review for you here. It's sort of like a journal entry or a diary, but I wanted to do a reflective video so that it kind of keeps me on track of what I did in the past month and gives me a little bit of a moment to reflect, but it also kind of keeps you up to date as well if you're interested in knowing what I've been up to sort of behind the scenes. So let's get into it, starting with travel. So this month I did travel and it was within Canada. I went to Alberta, which is in Western Canada. So if you don't know, I'm from Montreal. We had to fly over, go to Alberta, and I was there for a wedding. And I had never been before, or I'd been to Alberta quite a while ago, but for a very, very brief work trip. And so we wanted to make this a bit more of a weekend. And so we were there over the Canadian Thanksgiving weekend, and we made it a little bit more of a trip so that I could see a bit more and explore. So the majority of our time was spent in Canmore, which is where the wedding was. And this is sort of like right at the base of the Rockies. You can go hiking there. It's really beautiful, little mountain town. And it was quite picturesque, really, really pretty, and the weather was perfect. I will say it was a little wonky because when we left Montreal, it was like 29 degrees, and when we arrived in Alberta, it was like -1, and then the next morning it was -1. But by the time the wedding came around, we were like coats off. It was 24 degrees, sunny. I got a little bit of a sunburn. We had to wear sunscreen. It was like a whole thing. So the weather variations were pretty intense, but really fun and beautiful as well. We had a beautiful, beautiful sunny weekend over there, and all the fall colors were like nice and bright, lots of yellow. I will say, like, here in Montreal and Toronto as well, the colors that we get are sort of red and yellow and green. There's definitely more variety in the colors, where over there it just was like everything was yellow. Like it was a wash of yellow, and it was really pretty, but it was really different. And so the wedding was in the mountains, and we did do some hiking in Banff. We didn't get to go to Lake Louise or any of the blue lakes that are really popular at Lake Moraine because it was a bit too crowded, and honestly we were just really tired from the wedding itself. But overall, like, hiking in Banff was really pretty. Just getting to be in the mountains, we don't really have we don't have the Rockies over here. I'm not really exposed to the mountains, and just like the sheer size of the mountains in Alberta are really something else. Like, you really feel them, especially as you are driving, from Canmore, or driving, from Calgary through to Canmore. The mountains start to emerge around you, and then as you're driving in that area or going to Banff, the mountains are it feels very like you're sort of immersed in the mountains, and they're very, very rugged. They're not like a lush mountain like in BC. They're definitely like a rockier, more like rugged terrain, drier, arid experience, and it's really cool. I highly recommend it if you haven't been over there. It was really, really cool to spend a little bit more time in a part of Canada that I'm not familiar with. And then while we were over there, I got to meet up with a sewing friend, which was really fun. We met up while we had a day in Calgary, and it was really fun to meet up with Gabby, and she drove me around to a few of her favorite spots. So we got to go to Rick Rack Textiles, which is a really great little fabric store. The ladies there were so sweet, and they have a really great selection of things. I'll show you what I got from them because I did pick up a couple of things, and I'm really excited with the projects I'm gonna make with these things, or project, I guess. Let me show you. So I got this really cool, it's cork, it's a cork fabric, and you can see all the different colors. It sort of almost looks like melted crayon in it, but it's a cork fabric, and I'm thinking about making maybe like a backpack or like a crescent bag, like one of those big crescent bags, or a tote bag. I'm not really sure yet, but I really like this fabric. It's really cool. And then it's got a bit of a backing like this. And apparently it's quite easy to sew with. So I'm looking forward to trying this out. I haven't seen this sort of fabric before, which is why I picked it up. And then I'm gonna be I think I might use this either to line it, or I'm kind of tempted to make it its own sling bag and then just quilt it to give it structure, because it's just like, it deserves its own moment. It's all these carbs, all these delicious foods, has tomatoes and like pasta and like ravioli and like it's just like when Gabby and I saw this at Rick Rack, we were both like immediately yes, and we both bought it because it's just like so fun. I feel like this needs its own moment. Let me know what you think. I think it needs to not be a lining, and it deserves to have its own standout experience as its own garment, or not garment, but as a bag. Yeah, I'm feeling like it needs to be quilted. It needs to be quilted to give it the structure, and then be like a sling bag with like a black strap. I think that would be really cute. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments. So yeah, Gabby and I went to Rick Rack Textiles. That's where I got those things, and I really enjoyed that fabric store. It was really, really cute. It was a really fun experience to go there. Especially at my job, I deal with a lot of fabric stores, and I talk to a lot of our wholesalers quite often. And so to like be in the store that I've like spoken with online before, that was a really fun experience. And so we went to one other store. We went to Stash, which is a knitting store, and I bought this. This is the this is Mondium from Retrozaria, and I've never tried this yarn before. I see this brand all the time. I believe they're a Portuguese brand. I see them a lot in stores, but I haven't really seen them much in Montreal, and I really wanted to try this wool. It's a 100% Portuguese sock wool, and it's meant to, yeah, it's a sock wool, but there's no nylon or anything in it, but it's meant to stand up quite well to the test of time, so we'll see. But look how cool these colors are. I really like these a lot. I'm loving like the splash of pink and yellow and blue. So basically like all the colors that I want to wear. So I bought this. You know, usually I try to buy like one little souvenir of like a Calgary based or like a brand that's like from where I'm traveling, but nothing was really standing out to me, honestly, and I didn't have a lot of room in my carry-on, and so I just bought this because I haven't seen it anywhere really except for there. So I bought this from Stash. Really cool yarn store, really big. I think they actually said they were the biggest or one of the biggest in Canada aside from the Knitting Loft in Toronto. So that's cool. It's always fun to like see new places, especially in Canada. And a lot of all the Montreal yarn stores are quite small, so it's fun to see like a bigger Montreal yarn store. Sorry, it's fun to see a bigger yarn store than what we have here. So yeah, this is what I got from Stash. And so that kind of concludes our time in Alberta. We had a good time. It was very much like a flash in the pan sort of trip because we didn't really have too much time to stay there, but it was perfect and it was nice to have a little bit of a getaway. And yeah, that was the only travel that we did this month. Okay, so next up, I'll talk about DIY projects, and I finished 3 different DIY projects. I finished 2 vests and a knitting project, and then I have a few things that I'm working on that I'll tell you about. So the first thing that I finished is the marshmallow vest, and it actually didn't turn out quite how I wanted to, and I'm not really a big fan of it, actually. I don't necessarily know that this is the designer's fault, but I do think that there maybe was an error in the instructions, at least in like the English side of the instructions. Because if you look in the Ravelry page and if you look on Instagram, there's like 2 sorts of fits that you're seeing. Like one is very true to how the designer sort of modeled it, and then another way that you see it is very oversized, like very deep armholes, much more like how mine turned out. So I think where the error was is how much you had to knit before you join in like the armpit area, before you join into the round. And I think that maybe in the English instructions, it said to like knit more than in the other instructions, or at least in the English instructions, it didn't specify where you had to start measuring. So I believe it said 10 centimeters. And from what I did was I measured 10 centimeters from the neckline down, but I believe you had to measure 10 centimeters from the shoulder, which meant that you would have had to sort of join very short, maybe like a couple centimeters from the neckline, if that makes any sense. And I realized this because I knit another vest from that designer right after, and that instruction was very clear. And I remember thinking like, oh, I think I know where I went wrong now. And so, you know, it's fine. I just don't find that the finished product is that wearable. It just isn't really, it's just not really like the right vibe. But I might knit it again because it was a really fun knit and it was really quick. I will say that weaving in the ends at the end is not enjoyable, and I did not enjoy that part at all. but the rest of it was pretty fun to knit, and I do like the big stripes. I think that is pretty fun. But yeah, the weaving in of the ends, not enjoyable. So that was the marshmallow vest. I have worn it a couple times, but I'm just noticing that the fit, it means that I'm not reaching for it the way that I would normally reach for it, especially after seeing the mood slipover, which I have also finished and I love wearing, which is the next project that I finished. So I really love the mood slipover. It's from the same designer and I just had so much fun. It was my first colorwork project and I became obsessed with it. So I started knitting this while I was in Alberta. I started it on the plane and I finished, I believe in my travels, I got to just before you have to bring in like the color work. And so I knit a lot while I was away. And then when I got back, I just like hyper focused on that project and just like was like going crazy, like trying to get through the color work portion. And the thing about color work that everyone always says is that it's kind of addicting because you want to get to the next motif. Like it's kind of like knitting stripes where you just want to get to the next stripe or you want to get to the next pattern repeat. And that's what was happening with the mood slipover. Was I just was like, okay, I just need to get the like this row of the repeat, or I just need to get to the end of this motif. I wanted to see like the smiley face come to life. And I just kept doing that and I found that I finished it really quickly as a result. So I knit this in Kelburn Woolen's Germantown yarn. What a fun, great yarn to work with. I love their saturated colors. This is exactly what I wanted. I wanted really bright, really saturated colors, and that's what I got with this. I really wanted something happy and fun to really play into the whole, you know, smiley face thing. And yellow smiley faces were just like, yeah, they had to be yellow, and the blue background is kind of like this like blue sky. And I found it a really great first colorwork project. The pattern was super simple to follow. For someone who's never done colorwork before, who has never read a chart before, I found it really, really easy. And I really liked the finished product in the end. So I did find that it fit a bit slimmer than I would want it to. So I knit a medium, but I felt like the medium should be the small. So I feel like it is a bit of a tighter fit than you might want, than most people would want with that kind of pattern anyways, or with that kind of like style. But getting like knitting the medium meant that I got the right fit, and that's totally fine. I don't think I would size up more than that. So I made 2 changes to the pattern. Both of them were just in the finishing details. So rather than knitting the neckband double and folding it over, I just knit half of it. And then on all the bands, I added in just a little bit of yellow to tie into the motif. The original pattern doesn't have that. And I wanted to play back into the yellow and use a little bit of my yellow yarn because I was also like running kind of close to being empty. I was kind of like running towards the end of my blue yarn and I didn't have any more and I didn't want to buy more. So I was a little nervous about that. And yeah, I ended up having enough, but I think it was a good call because I also did do a tubular bind off, and that also takes up a lot of yarn. So I don't know if I would have had enough if I hadn't brought in the yellow. I was really like running low on my blue yarn. So I'm happy that I did that. And since I finished it, I've just been wearing it a ton. It's just such a fun vest to wear. I'm gonna knit one for my friend and then we can match and take adorable photos and just be so cute. And it's the kind of vest I don't mind knitting again because it was like I said, it was just so fun. And I've just been dreaming up color work projects ever since. So yeah, great pattern. If you are trying to think of a color work pattern to get into, I highly recommend that one. And the last thing that I finished was the zero waste crop shirt. So I actually made one in this video. I'll link it up here. And I kind of walk through that process of making a zero waste shirt, making a zero waste pattern for the first time. And this is exactly the same pattern. The only difference, and it looks quite different from the one in that video, is that it's because the fabric is a lot wider than the original fabric that I used. So the original fabric I used is 44 inches wide, and I believe this was maybe 55 inches wide. And you can, or 50, anyways, it was quite a bit wider. And that just plays into the oversizedness. So the width of the bodice is really determined on the width of your fabric. And that's just kind of how the pattern goes. And I really liked making this shirt the second time, especially because I'd made it before. I didn't feel intimidated by the zero waste pattern. Sewing something twice is really fun. I find it's a really great experience because you've already been there before, especially when it's already a quick sew. So doing this again, I just like breezed through it. It was really fun. I had no hiccups. And I love the finished product. I use this really cool double gauze that's double-sided, so there's a print on either side. So I played with the pattern to mix up the patterns and have them, you know, pattern blocked in different areas of the shirt. And I think that was really cool, and it also helped me get inspired with like how to use up some of my scrap fabrics and do a little bit more pattern blocking or color blocking in the future. So that was a really great project. I would love to maybe make a video on working with scrap fabrics. I just haven't come up with the right project yet, but a zero waste pattern might be a good opportunity for it, especially that one, since, you know, I already know what the pattern entails. I think having those sort of like tried and true patterns are really fun, and they also just help when you want to like decompress a bit from a bigger project. So that was everything that I finished in October, and then I'll let you know what I'm planning on working on and then also what I have started. So let me show you. In my most recent knit and chat, I was working on this baby, and I've gotten quite a bit further, and you can see how nicely the yarn is. Oh, like it's just working up so nice, and I'm really, really pleased with it. So this is the cardigan from Lindsay Degan, and I always say it like that because it just sounds kind of funny, but yes, it's cardigan from Lindsay Degan, and the cardigan is spelled like her last name. Anyways, all that to say, I'm really enjoying how this is working up, and it's really lovely, soft merino. It's from Arcane Fiber Works. I will link them in the description box, and I'm just having a fun time with this. I will say, like, working on something that is strictly stockinette after doing a color work project, it feels a bit like slow and mundane, but it means that I can read while I'm working on it. So that's not so bad, at least, but it is a bit boring in comparison to, you know, knitting the vest that I was working on. I was just constantly engaged with that and just really obsessed with it. It became almost like a game working on it. So yeah. And then I did have one fail, which I'm honestly so bummed about. I posted about it on my Instagram stories because I was just like so upset. And if you want to like stay more up to date on kind of the day-to-day stuff, you can follow me on Instagram because I post a lot. I especially post a lot on stories, and that's like a little peek into my mind. So what happened was I was making another zero waste pattern, and I will make this one eventually, but I was making a trouser pattern, and it's a really cool pattern because you cut out the squares that you need, and then you cut out the crotch curve, and the crotch curve becomes the pockets. Like the space that you cut out, the fabric that you cut out for the crotch becomes the pockets. And I thought that was really innovative and really cool. The thing is that I was so silly, and I thought, I like triple checked, I thought, but it was in the evening and I was a bit foggy, and I maybe had a glass of wine, you know, just not quite fully there. And instead of putting the fabrics right sides together, I put it right side to wrong side, which meant that when I cut out the crotch curve, I ended up with two identical pieces. And the thing with the zero waste pattern is that you only have so much fabric. Like you're working within the limitations, and so you can't like place the pattern pieces in a different way to get a different outcome. And it was also corduroys, so it was a fabric that had a distinct right side and a wrong side. And so it became not completely useless because I can use the fabric for something else, but I can't use that fabric for that project. It just, I had a few people on Instagram stories trying to like tell me like, oh, I try this. And I was just like, I did try, it's not salvageable for that project. And having a really like just blatant fail for the first time in honestly ages. I make sewing fails all the time, but usually I can like correct them. This was just, it was a goner. Like the project was a goner. There was no coming back from it. And having that felt so devastating. I just was like, I don't know what to do with myself now. I'm upset, I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed, I'm angry. And then what I had planned on working on, I not only could not have the finished product, but I couldn't even like work on it, and I was really excited to work on it. So all that to say, honestly, it was a huge bummer. I was really, really upset with myself, but it happens. and we're moving on, and I have a couple other projects that I'm really excited about. So why don't I tell you about those projects? So the first one, I've got these two fabrics here, and these are gonna be, I got them at a clothing swap, and I have a video about that I'll link. So it was a fabric and clothing swap, and I got these at that. And this is gonna be a double-sided, it's gonna be a reversible vest. And I'm gonna use a free pattern. I'm gonna use the Pearl Soho quilted vest pattern. And with these two fabrics, I'm going to make, so this will be one side, this will be the other side, and then I'll also make bias binding out of this to bind the edges. And I think it will be really stinking cute, and I cannot wait. I have some batting that I'll use to make it puffy so I can quilt it. And I think it's gonna be really great. I really love this wool. I'm not really a big fan of this kind of brown, but I think that with these colors, it's just gonna look really good. I think the orange kind of ties in with the brown really nicely. And then there's green and blue and purple in here, and so that kind of fits into my wardrobe in that way. So I'm very much excited about this. I love it, and I can't wait to cut into it. I think it'll be a really fun, simple project. I do plan on hacking the pattern a bit, so it's not quite as high-necked, and then it'll have like a little bow, and it will be adorable. So I'm gonna be working on that this month, or well, November. I can't believe we're going into November. I'll be working on it in November, and maybe I'll have that to show you in a November roundup. If we like this format, again, let me know. Do we like the format? I'm kind of liking it. Maybe I'll just do it anyways, even if you don't watch. So that's one idea. That's the Pearl Soho vest. And then the other one I think I mentioned is with either both of these fabrics, making a bag and lining it, or just quilting this and making the, I think the crosstown crescent bag is like what I have in mind for this. And like I said, quilting this fabric so that I can have that like structure, maybe. I don't know yet, but that's an idea. Initially, yeah, this fabric was meant to be the outside shell for this lining, but I really just think that this fabric deserves its own moment. So those are the projects. And then I also do have planned some jeans. So I've been thinking about making these jeans for ages, the Rudy Jude jeans, and a ton of people have since made them on Instagram, and I really, really love seeing everyone make them. And so I've had a few jeans in my repertoire now that I feel like I can nail the construction of these. So I'm gonna be using the Helene jean pattern from Anna Allen, and I'm gonna be trying the whole double front thing with the contrast top stitching. I think it's gonna look really great. I've been wanting to have these jeans for ages, so I think that will be a cool project. And I think that's probably it in terms of sewing projects, because having a vest and jeans and a bag feels doable. I mean, considering I only made one thing in like one sewing project this month, that might even be too ambitious, but we'll see. I feel good about it. I think it's doable. Okay, and then next up on my list, I've got some favorites that I thought that I would share. So I already showed a few things that I bought in terms of like fabric and yarn, so I won't get into that again. But there are a couple other things that I purchased that I thought that I would tell you because I've been using them a lot and have been loving them. So we'll start with this perfume. I always buy travel perfumes. That's my preference. And then if I go through it, I know that I love it. So this is Book. It's from Commodity, and I'm not like a huge scent person, but I'm starting to get more into it. And I actually smelled this on Gabby when we were when I met her in Calgary, and I immediately was like, "What are you wearing? You smell like a bougie yoga studio in the best way possible." And she told me it was this. And what's actually really cute about it is that this is from one of my favorite books. She wears it in Book Lovers, I believe, is the book, and I just think that it's like a fun little, like, it's called Book. She wears it in Book Lovers, and I really like it, and I love the book, and so it's a fun little full circle moment. Plus Gabby was wearing it, she's a friend, you know. It was a nice little rounded out moment, little full circle moment. So I really, really love this perfume. It just smells, honestly, it smells like a bougie yoga studio or like one of those really nice gift shops where you go in and it kind of smells like a little woody, a little spicy, but soft. This is like what I think I smell like, but or I only smell like this when I wear this perfume. But it like just feels like a very personal scent. It feels like very close, and you give someone a hug and you're like, oh my God, you smell so good. Like that's this perfume. And it just has a really like your skin but better sort of smell, sort of clean, a little bit woody. You can look up I'll put the notes here of what it actually is like, because I don't know perfume notes. I just know I like it and it smells good. So yeah, this has been a favorite. Honestly, I'm gonna have to buy the full version of this because I'm already like there, I think, on it. And I just bought this, so this is a fave. And then I'm not usually a matcha girl, matcha, but I've been using this. It's a superfood latte matcha coconut from Bloom. So I bought this because I read that having less coffee in the lead up to your period, like maybe a week or two before your period, is a good thing, and having matcha instead kind of helps your anxiety. And so I've been trying to not give up coffee, but supplement, instead of having 2 coffees a day, maybe having coffee and a matcha. And this is really good. And I usually don't like matcha at all. Like, I'm not a matcha girl. I don't even know why I bought this, because I don't like matcha. But I do like this a lot. And it definitely has a bit of like that coconutty flavor. Like you can feel that, but it's just great. I drink it hot. I'm not a cold drink girly. Plus it's cold now, so no cold drinks, but this is delicious. I really, really like this. I'll link it below if you're interested in trying it out, but it's perfect. It's like a really good matcha. It's very enjoyable to drink. And if someone like me who doesn't like matcha likes this, then you might like this if you don't like matcha. Or maybe if you do like matcha, you'll like it anyway. So yeah, this is Bloom Superfood Latte Matcha Coconut. Delicious. And then looking at my list, oh yes, I have been really into a couple Switch games. So I love a Nintendo Switch, and I have been really liking Fae Farm. It's like a cozy fairy game. It's kind of like, it's a bit like Stardew Valley, but it's fairies. It's all fairies, and it's just really sweet, really cozy. The story is quite pretty. The gameplay is really fun. The farming is fun. The quests are fun. It's just a very pretty game, really cozy space. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I did take a bit of a break from it because I've been playing Super Mario Wonder, which just came out, and that's a really sweet game too. The Mario games are really nostalgic for me, and my partner and I have both gotten really into it, and it's just such a pretty game. Like, there's just something about those colors, the like light colors, and the music is really fun, especially in Wonder. I've been really having a lot of fun. I really love video games. I've determined I'm like a cozy game girl. Like, I don't love, like, I thought I would like Zelda. I thought maybe there would be like other games, but really the kind of games I like are like Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, Fae Farm, Mario, those sorts of games. Especially like the cozier, the better. That's always my vibe. Oh, and while we talk about cozy games, if you are into cozy games, check out Wildflower. I have it on my Nintendo Switch, and it is such a good game. You're a witch, but you like find out that you're a witch by moving to like your grandmother's hometown to like take care of her, and you like join her coven. Anyways, it's a delightful game. Wildflower, I'll link it again below. But yeah, cozy games for cozy season, and just always find it really like helps my brain relax at the end of the day. I kind of like doing it before bed because it's a bit of screen time, but it's a different screen time. I'm like, you know, not plugged into the world. I'm plugged into a different world. And I find it very enjoyable. And yeah, that's kind of everything. This was a fun little roundup. I am happy that you're here. If you want to watch some more chatty videos, these are some good longer form chatty videos. And then if you want to watch any more like sewing content or making content, you can watch one of these two. I think either one will be a pretty good fit. If you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe. Would love to have you here. I think that this community is growing and it's really nice to see that happening, and I'm feeling like I'm in a good rhythm with YouTube, and I would love to have you part of this community. So thank you again for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye!